The primary purpose of Innovative AAC Solutions, the podcast, is to educate and inform. The views expressed during all episodes are solely those of the individuals involved and do not constitute educational or medical advice. They are not necessarily the views of Special School District of St. Louis County. Welcome back to episode 7. I can't believe we've already gotten here. My name is Laura Hayes, and I am your host for Innovative AAC Solutions, the podcast. And today's episode is all about literacy. Yeah, we've been doing it all season long, so we're just going to keep it going today. This episode is one of my favorites because I feel like there's some hidden gems here from one of our teacher assistants, Sheila Blair, who works with our Vocational Skills Program here at Central Office and has just been, she has a wealth of knowledge because she has been with the district for so long. I won't spoil it by telling you all of those fun details now, but just know that she is an amazing person, an amazing staff, and she is just the epitome of what it means to how we can really creatively support all of our students, whether they be early childhood all the way up through our young adults moving into work sites and job settings. She's just an amazing, amazing human. And I can't wait for you guys to kind of sit back and listen to all the things that she shares about literacy, specifically with her experience in the past, as well as supporting communication and literacy for her students in the VSP program in the here and the now. So before we unpack that, I did want to share, it's a little bit late because you guys have probably already celebrated Thanksgiving or just kind of taken that break, but I need you to know that the holiday jokes never die. Like, you can use holiday jokes whenever the mood strikes you. And some of our students really like talking about them anytime, anywhere. So this joke is, what's the turkey's favorite letter of the alphabet? What's a turkey's favorite letter of the alphabet? Any idea? It's got to be gobble you. Gobble you. I told that to my son. He loved it. So definitely, if you're having a late Thanksgiving, or if you just kind of are doing a turkey activity this week, or if you just really want to chuckle in general, just feel free to share that one with some other staff and students. And hopefully they get as much of a laugh out of it as I did. And that's what's going to lead us into our interview. Sheila has got so many laughs. She has such a bright personality. So definitely write some gems down that you hear from her, or just reach out to her with questions because she's just so great. So let's jump into our interview with Sheila Blair. Everybody, welcome back to Innovative AAC Solutions. I am Laura Hayes, and I am here with one of the people that I think is just the most amazing people that you could possibly come across in the district, and someone you may not have met yet. So I would love to introduce everyone here to Sheila Blair. She is one of our paraprofessionals here who is working with our VSP program. And so Sheila, thank you for coming on today. And I'm so excited to chat. So go ahead and tell our listeners just a little bit about your path and your background as a professional and your experience in relation to SSD.
So I've been with the district for more than 25 years. I started in child development, and I started in child development probably when I got the bug for children was at the high school level. Then I moved from the high school level. I attended college, and my actual background was going to be a nursing. I wanted to do nursing. I wanted a degree in nursing very much, so badly. And I decided that it would be pediatric nursing that I was interested in, which gave me a leg to go and seek a job during the summer at another child development center because I had already had it in high school. And this is the funny part about my background. So, if anyone is familiar, they will know that um, Berkeley High School over in Ferguson Florissant School District, they had an elementary building that was owned by, well, not owned, I apologize. It was rented by Boeing. Okay. Ferguson Florissant School District owned the building. So I saw a career in at Boeing in child development. That job took me from Boeing to Ferguson Florissant because Ferguson Florissant wanted their building back.
Oh,
I
interesting.
think it's very complicated, but the building specifically belonged to Ferguson Florissant School District. Boeing rented the building from Ferguson Florissant School District, and I was kicked out of a job at Boeing. So I went and sought a job at Ferguson Florissant School District. And from Ferguson Florissant School District brought me to Special. And from Special, I started working in the PI classroom. And that's how I gained my first experience working with students with augmented devices. So I had a student who was physically impaired, but whom was also paired with an augmented device. And so it's very interesting because when I think even way back then, those devices were super expensive.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's really I feel like so much I could probably say about my work experience. With
So that was with that still with early childhood then? Like with the young
yes,
ones? Okay. So
yes,
then
and I apologize. And I was primarily stationed at Wedgwood Elementary was the school that I was at. Yeah, I
that was where I
really
started
loved it.
too, Sheila. I don't know if you knew that. That was one of my first,
Really?
well, I didn't work directly in the building, but it was one of the first buildings I supported my first year as a facilitator. And I
Oh,
loved
okay.
Wedgwood. I loved the atmosphere and the culture at Wedgwood.
So, so you have to know Andrew Glider.
Hmm.
Yes, she was my mentor.
Oh, I love it. I love
Yes,
it.
yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, so, okay. So you went from working with younger students and then did
Mhm.
you work with them for a while or did
Okay,
you move up to older
so
students?
this is where things become very blurred for me. I That was the beginning of my career. So I started my career in 90, I would say 96. Okay. And so I've been at elementary, secondary, probably more than twice. Like, I feel like the best words I could use to describe it is I have circled the block more than a couple of times or cycled through. I like that word better. Cycled through um, secondary and elementary at least twice to three times.
But it gives you such a breadth of knowledge and
Oh,
experiences and
I sure
perspectives.
hope so.
Yeah, no,
I
I'm
sure
just sitting
hope
here.
so.
When we chatted about you coming on, I
Mhm.
was blown away. I was like, I'm so excited because even just thinking way back, and we talk all the time about how old those devices are, how heavy they were, how
Mhm.
expensive they were. What has been your experience like? Other than, you have a student now, we can talk about him too, but you have a student now with an AAC device that looks very different than I'm sure your first student with an AAC device.
Yes. So I was so happy when you asked about that. So specifically back then, that machine was called a liberator. I'm not sure why it had that name, but it had the name of a liberator. And I can recall when I looked at that device, I recall being so overwhelmed looking at it because it had a lot of communication things on there, like pictures, and I feel like I was not exposed to computer technology at that point. And so when you would look at it, you would just feel so overwhelmed with the pictures. And in thinking about it, the pictures on the device, they make more sense now to me, but I don't know why they may make more sense now than they did when I was younger. um, and I just would remember feeling overwhelmed and looking at the pictures. And I knew what the device should be doing, which is communicating for that student. Um, and I almost feel like it has changed a little bit in comparison to back then versus now. From 96 until to now, it has changed somewhat, but one of the things that I think it probably does not have a lot of is probably personality.
Mm.
That sounds crazy, right?
No, it doesn't.
But it does what we needed to do, which is to communicate small phrases for the students so that they can one what advocate for themselves. One of the other things that I like that it does is that it does showcase the student's knowledge, which is hugely important because people sometimes assume because our student has a device that speaks for them that they cannot communicate for themselves. I think it's really always important that we keep in mind that for our students with special needs to have the patience to let them use their device and not, I don't think it's done on purpose, but just to be mindful about letting them have the option of speaking for themselves, us having the patience to hear them out, and that we help them use that device because it is their voice, and they have to feel comfortable with it. I think that's what I have gained since working with our student currently now. He's not as comfortable with his device. He feels that his voice is better, and his voice is great, but he also needs to know how to use his device. His device is critical for him, and I'm always just trying to think on the best way to serve him, and most often what's going to serve him beyond special school district. He's going to leave our program, and that's super important. I am so thankful for the staff that is here. I'm so thankful for you because I can, if at any point, if I don't know something, I can get immediate results and come and ask. So I love that part about using this device with him
Well,
and
and there's
teaching him.
so much that you're saying that I want to unpack because it truly like it is like thinking about how we talk a lot, in our world about how total communication is our goal. And it's not that speech is above everything else. It is what they value, what the individual values and what works for them based off of their environment, right? So one example in the
Yes.
VSP world might be that they struggle in an efficiency manner to be able to communicate something that is timely and is necessary. So perhaps we work on sharing that message with an AAC device and either emailing it or having it pre-programmed so that they can communicate it faster in that moment and thinking through those opportunities. So just all of that you're saying about one isn't above another and like how there's value in each area, I think is so important to remind ourselves that we know we have to be patient because it takes longer, and we know we have to be good detectives and figure out, well, what are the opportunities they may be struggling in, or what are those opportunities when they leave here, right? Like we understand them or we
Yes.
know what they want in this context, but when they leave here, that may not be true. So I love that. And then you mentioned something about the symbols. So I want to unpack that a little bit with you.
Okay.
So the symbols that have changed throughout the years have definitely shifted. I think less people are overwhelmed, but I do think there's a component of even when I started with AAC, I was overwhelmed, and now the symbols make more sense because I've used it more. So my brain
Mhm.
is starting to kind of pick up on those patterns, just like it sounds like
Mhm.
yours has. But this season, we're really honing in on the pieces of literacy and the importance of, yeah, symbols. We really want all of our students and all of our AAC users to be literate. We want them that we know how much value is in that because if it's a truly unique thing that they want to say, whether it's their name or an address or their favorite band, it's probably not in a symbol or their favorite TV show, right?
Yes.
TV shows and Netflix
Yes.
shows, they change. So let's talk a little bit about what role you feel like AAC and literacy kind of play within the world of VSP or just in your experience throughout the years. What do you think that looks like, or what do you see the value in?
So I'm hoping that I can answer this very correctly. Okay. So, what I have found in that device in VSP is that oftentimes we have to double make sure that we have pre-planned our lessons. That is really critical in our students' success. So being very mindful about taking our lessons and have pre-planned them so that we can pre-program words and phrases, or we can gather pictures to match what our student is learning, what they will encounter in the work environment. Um, we have what I want to say or call universal pictures that help with navigating our students and assisting them to achieve um, their work abilities. I'm just trying to say specifically, the students are able to do their job successfully if we have these things put in place for them. So you have a choice of either using the device itself or pictures, but what we like to do is use it together. It's a collaboration of both. So that helps our student out majorly. The object that it sometimes poses is not having sometimes enough time for these pre-programming on their communication device. That is sometimes the hugest obstacle. We don't often have enough time to get those things programmed in there. And then certainly if you have, you know how in computer programming, you have all these words and phrases, or when you're going to program a computer, you have specific things that you want the computer to do. You want it to function. Well, our students are the same way. How I see it is the student cannot be successful if we have not prepared and programmed or did our part as far as pre-preparing them academically or giving them the life skill that they will need to be successful in their environment. And I'm gonna use that word again because I know it's very critical. And you'll see it because they'll struggle a little bit. And currently right now, our student that we have with his device, he feels more comfortable again using his voice than he does the device. And I root this back to, I noticed that he has a very bubbly and happy personality. So my focus is oftentimes to try to program in his talker the things that he would verbally say, to reflect his personality. If I'm explaining this correctly, I'm trying to, as best as I can, to capture his personality because his personality is the first thing that stands out. But most often, his personality, if it makes sense, is the first thing that he uses in communicating. When he goes to that device, if you ask him something academically, he struggles. And the first thing he does typically is he puts his finger up to his chin, which tells me that he is thinking. He's not, or another thing it tells me that have observed is he's not confident in the device. Okay, but if I ask him, is this what you're trying to say? And I give him an example, he'll go, yes. Well, then I go in and we can program those short phrases into his device. You know, those are the kind of things that will certainly help him. The literacy part is going to play just major because at the same time, I recognize, and I should have said this first, that he has limited vocabulary. So, because the vocabulary is limited, it is probably really important that he doesn't have so much communication that overwhelms him. I love the fact that Miss Cheryl, and I apologize, I don't know Cheryl's last name, but she's the one that helps me with his device, and I love that she has a word of the week. Is it the word of the week?
Sure
Correct.
is. Yep.
Okay.
And it's Cheryl Livingston. Yep. She's
Yes,
one of our
Livingston.
favorites. Yep.
Yes, I absolutely love that she has a word of the week. So I have talked to him about her word of the week, but I have not yet programmed it into his device because he has so many other things on his device that he needs to be using that I don't want to overwhelm him, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
You
And
know,
I think that brings up a couple good points too, just thinking through like what vocabulary and what things we use as adults and young adults and like moving forward into the workforce and how those aren't necessarily all the same things that we're learning about at a young age, like a little bit more like those core words and words of the week that we sometimes highlight. We're really thinking about strategic use of language and language functions and how do we ask questions, how do we self-advocate for ourselves, like you mentioned, even a lot of and this is getting younger and younger, but we talk about the personality piece, we talk about how to add Gen Z slang to some of our devices because
yes.
that's not on there. I just customized the page yesterday for she's a little younger than VSP, but she's getting into middle
Mm-hmm.
school, and so
Yes.
her older sisters say things like slay queen and that's
Yes.
chuggy and like all those
Yes.
kinds of things that she doesn't get to say on her device as is. So we have to customize it. We have to make sure that we're thinking through what their autonomous, what they would want to say, right?
Mm-hmm.
What their thoughts
Yes.
are reflective of. And so, yeah, sometimes that isn't the word of the week. Sometimes that's something completely different. And that goes back to that literacy piece. The only way we're going to know is if
Mm-hmm.
they can start to have that early exposure to literacy, to phonics. Like I see just in your background too, Sheila, you guys have some important words, right? Like birthdays and
Yes,
VSP and some different drawings and how that's reflective of their written expression and like how you're pulling that all in. So is there something that you guys or tools that you guys kind of use in your classroom, in your VSP classroom or in the job site that you feel like really I know one of the things that I think
yes,
we're kind of circling around is the fact that we need to be doing this earlier than just VSP, right? We need to be exposing our kids to
yes,
literacy.
yes.
But are there
Thank you
things you
so
guys
much.
use?
Yes. So I'm feeling super comfortable with, and even my coworkers, are the pictures. So like what we do is Rachel Blake, who is the teacher that I currently work with. She has like pre created books. She has pre-made a lot of the sheets that we use with the pictures on there. And some of the things that like we talk about in our classroom as far as like working on our reading. And I should have pulled some of those resources. Some of those resources I know for a fact, certainly find them on the special school district website, but there are reading guides that you can use with the pictures attached. So that helps and assists a lot, especially when kids are struggling with their reading. And it also has helped. One of the things that we use in VSP is called uh, a reading a interest inventory checklist, and we use that to find out what interests students have as far as like work. On this interest inventory, it has pictures, and so it's probably just two pictures, but they're categorized so that students can figure out what jobs they like doing versus they might like doing a job inside versus doing a job outside. Do you like working in housekeeping? Do you like cleaning? Uh, just the various different ones that are great examples for those students to use, like those pictures for that. One of my other tools that I certainly use, and I'm always going to use it, even if I don't write it down, I'm tracking it here mentally in my head. I really like Jerry Johns. Like, if you know that simple checklist, and what I mean simple checklist is if you get a Jerry Johns reading inventory, it gives you a list of words that students should recognize or kids should recognize. That's a good checklist to follow by. They should be able to at least read at a third grade level. Oftentimes, no, most of our students that come to us, honestly, they cannot read at a third grade level. And so, again, this is why a lot of the pictures are really super important. Um, but what I like mostly about that is it tells you when you will need to step in, possibly in helping them to fill out a job application. And this is one of the reasons why I mentioned as well as the pictures, because the pictures are one of the things that you can use in filling out a job application. So my expectation for my student that we currently have here is we want to showcase his abilities, right? So an example of that for me would be to use the words that he would actually use, not words on his device that he typically does not use, but to help him use those words to showcase himself when he goes for a job interview. So he's going to tell someone some things about himself, how old he is, and just some things that he would like to do and some things that he can do, and maybe future wise, where he would like to be in a job. Because the hopes is for students not to be stagnant in their job, but to hopefully start them at an entry level job, and maybe this job will take them somewhere else, you know. So he has that device to rely on, which is very important in him showcasing his abilities for himself, and it also will advocate for himself. But most of all, the language that is programmed in that device and programmed visually for him is actual language that he understands. It's I
Absolutely.
find oftentimes that a lot of the things that we're using with VSP is we use so many various devices because we're the last leg of the race, so to speak. That's the best way I can describe it. We're running a marathon and we're all doing it together. Everyone's included in this marathon with special school district. Everyone plays a part, everyone plays a role. So our focus in VSP is not to drop the baton. And we're trying to make sure that our students can get there. I think we're doing a pretty awesome job doing it, all of us. It takes all of us.
It's very clear to me that you guys use that team approach, that collaborative approach. You're innovative, you're outside the box thinking, you care about the students. I mean, it is quite evident to me as someone who sees you very regularly that you guys are you're you're just you're taking that baton and you're sprinting. Like I see it. So I think that when we think about how it is a marathon, like I loved that quote you just said too, Sheila, just thinking about how it's a marathon and like our goal is to just get them across the finish line so they can be successful. Do you feel like there's any other things that you would want to leave a listener with as far as the importance or the value of thinking about literacy and maybe challenges that you've seen, maybe challenges you've seen in any of your roles here at SSD, whether it be with the itty bitties or the early elementary students or now
Yes,
here in VSP, you have this big wide range of things. So
it
what do you
is.
think?
I think that I'll say this. I don't really adequately know how to say it. We know our role as educators are very important. And I think sometimes what's difficult is just the whole beginning and then seeing what the end result will be because we're going to work as a team, right? So early on, early ed, sometimes we start seeing our students struggle. And it's hard for some parents to get on board or for some not. It's different, it's so many wide ranges. But what I just want to say is that mainly the earlier on we can detect or we see maybe our students are teetering, we probably should, refer them so that there's testing and hopefully make a decision from there because those early on years are so critical for our students. The earlier, the better. And then toward the end, we'll see some other things in with their post-secondary goals. Because I I feel like if we can get an early prediction or get our kids educated early with their special needs, if they need assistance in that area, we'll have better outcomes toward the end of the race, so to speak. We know what the outcome will be. And I think one other thing I would like to say is that our students, once they leave our program, and probably VSP specifically, they are doing so well. But then we have our students that, are interested in moving on to different jobs. And sometimes they just don't know how to do that. And so filling out a job application is really important to them because they want a new job. And I confidently feel that probably COVID has caused a lot of our students to not probably have a job. They don't have no employment right now. So maybe because we only keep our kids until age of 21 is what I'm, so that they have some place to go that teaches them how to keep their job. And ESP should possibly look at creating a department maybe for our students who are have a job and who are interested in moving on to another job. um, I know people would say that's what VR is for, but specifically just saying that I know we only keep our students until age 21, but I would like to see something for the future for students to have the opportunity, though they're beyond 21, to have an option of employment somewhere else where we're helping assist with that and helping them to keep this job.
Yeah, I mean, I echo and can completely see that as well, in the sense that it feels like so many services stop at 21, or it's so
Mhm.
much more difficult when you age out of pediatric services, just obtaining equipment and medical care and regional office care. And there's so many more individuals that are graduating and then need those supports. And I've heard that it's just so much harder on the other side. I mean, my sister, we've dealt with that with my sister, and so I think that that would be an am amazing resource that we could maybe continue to develop, and thinking through that. So it's been lovely having you on, Sheila. I always ask all of my interviewees about your favorite AAC moment. So is there one to date that you can think of that would be a highlight for you, or just your one of your favorite learning experiences that you would want to?
You, I've had. I'm so thankful. I've had more than a couple, but I can remember early on in my career where I had a student who did not they did not know how to spell their name. And I'm laughing because what I did was I sung them their name in spelling over and over again. And I think it took a latter part of the day, like probably from 10 until about 1 p.m. And then they got it. I just wanted to just cry because knowing how to spell your name is such a big deal. And then there's another time I would say, um, even just recently, as far as VSP, when you have helped and assist a student get a job that they want to work, that is the best. To help a student get that employed, job, and it's their first employed job. So that's been a really great highlight. And then I have one more um, that I would like to share because I live in North County and I get to see those wonderful students that I've encountered and had the honor of teaching and working with. And I see them somewhere and they give me the biggest hug. That just means so much, because what I don't want to be at the end of the day is the teacher that made a kid not want to come to school and
Mm.
learn.
Well, and
So,
going all the way back to like your drive and passion, and you first thought you wanted to go into nursing and pediatric nursing, like it's clear that you want to make a difference. And so hanging your hat on the fact that you've made a difference for all of these students, whether it be spelling their name or just the social connection and the joy of working somewhere, it's so powerful. So thank you for everything that you've done for 25 years. It's crazy.
yeah,
I hope that SSD knows how lucky we are to have you. I know I am so grateful that you have come on and share your experiences today.
thank you. I really love education, and it's so funny, Laura. I I heard that song. What is the name of that song by Whitney Houston? That um, the greatest
The
love of
greatest love of
all.
all. That's what I thought you were going to
Oh
say.
my
Yeah.
God, that is my favorite song because when she says that the children are our future, teach them well and let them lead the way. That is a true statement. I don't know who came up with that line, but it is such a true statement. And at the end of the day, we all want the best for students. And I think that should always be the commonality amongst workers is that we want the best for them.
It all goes back to that, doesn't it?
It does. It absolutely does.
Mm. Okay, well, I can't think of a better way to end this interview, so we'll just end it right there. But on behalf of the podcast, on behalf of the AAC department, on behalf of SSD, if I can, I just want to thank you for coming on today and sharing with all of the little gems of wisdom that you've taken. We'll make sure to share the resources that you shared in the show notes.
Okay.
And if they have questions, what's the best way to reach out to you?
So they can reach out to me via email. My email address is spblair at ssdmo.org.
Perfect.
And they'll see my work phone number there, and they also may call me using the work phone number.
Okay. Well, we will land the plane there for Innovative AAC Solutions. Thanks you to Sheila for being on today, and you guys all take care.
Thank you so much, Laura. It's Thank you.